So this next course or next session is for SOS 321, which is Policy and Governance in Sustainable Systems. And they did their project with Victoria and Sawyer from the Water Department on different water and land, how to kind of combine water and land use policy planning for the city of Peoria. And they had a really good subject matter expert to work with, Erin Rugland from the Babbitt Center. And so she worked with Candice to be able to develop the types of policies that the students should look at, as well as the different city or peer communities that they would look at. So you're going to hear from 6 different groups of students who focused on different topics that they'll introduce, kind of situate those topics within peer communities that are doing really innovative and interesting things with integrated water and land use planning. And then they're going to provide recommendations for the city of Peoria. And I had the pleasure of visiting their class a lot. So high students were able to be here. I think a handful of them will be able to speak to some live Q&A at the end. But Allison, go ahead and share that video so we can make sure we stay on time.
Hello, we are the Building and Plumbing Codes group for the Water Policy Strategy Project from class SOS 321, Policy and Governance for Sustainable Systems. This is our water policy strategy for the city of Peoria. Our goal is to prevent the city of Peoria with our findings in conservation of water via city plumbing and building codes.
My name is Randy Domack.
My name is Christopher Sanchez Salcedo.
And my name is Colin Rice. As an overview, first we will be going over the case studies where we will dive into the water policies we've researched. Each city studied utilizes the 2018 International Plumbing Code. These are their amendments and ordinances regarding plumbing. Then we will be going over the themes and state the recurring problems we noticed throughout desert cities and how they tackled these issues. Then we will finish with our final recommendations. Here we go over our case studies. To prevent contamination, the town of Gilbert increased backflow preventions and separated or restricted the connections between water systems. Permits are required for non-essential water usage. They also implemented alternate flow rates different from the International Plumbing Code. They also provide free efficiency checks and recommendations. Then, with the city of Tucson, grease traps are required in commercial buildings, namely kitchens and other areas where the drains are likely to intake grease. New developments are required to incorporate gray water systems into irrigation. The city, like Gilbert, provides free efficiency checks. The city also offers rebates for installation of high efficiency appliances and fixtures, and the city also issues fines for failure to address controllable leaks.
For the city of Boulder, the city requires that building owners obtain permits for effective land and building use. The city also implements free workplace assessments of water efficiency to help water conservation efforts and to cut back on wasteful water use. And the city has also implemented a Partners for a Clean Environment program, which offers homeowners incentives, including rebates, to improve existing fixtures within the home, such as plumbing fixtures.
In the city of Moab, similarly to the city of Tucson, Moab has recently adopted a new ordinance that incorporates gray water systems into landscape irrigation. They have also recently emphasized the use of WaterSense appliances. They've also recently required the use of WaterSense appliances and fixtures in all of those that are connecting to gray water systems. The new plumbing connections of wastewater treatment facilities must fit a variety of requirements to prevent water contamination, such as the installation of grease traps. From our case studies, we were able to gather about 5 different themes. The first theme is the use of gray water systems. These systems will divert wastewater that is not suitable for consumption and divert it to areas that where it can be reclaimed. The second theme is high efficiency water fixtures and appliances. The use of these high efficiency water fixtures and appliances will overall reduce the excess use of water. Theme number 5 is contamination protection, and this goes along with the increased use of gray water systems. Preventative measures are taken to prevent contamination and the damage of systems, of public systems, such as backflow prevention and grease traps. Theme number 4 is LEED certifications. So LEED uses a categorical point system for certifying, and in requiring these certifications, Peoria can alter and make specifications for those requirements. Theme number 5 is residence and evaluation. The average homeowner holds their residence under less scrutiny than that of a commercially or publicly owned building. So some of these cities have offered efficiency checks to professionally evaluate the home's plumbing systems.
So what are our recommendations for Peoria? Our first recommendation would be to increase specification on silver LEED certification, specifically in the categories involving indoor and outdoor water use. Along with that first recommendation, we also would like to recommend the improvement of requirements for existing older buildings to meet the silver LEED certification. Our second recommendation would be the implementation of fines to increase attentiveness and reduce overall unnecessary water consumption. Fines for controllable leaks could also be implemented. Our third recommendation would be contamination protection, requiring the installation of grease traps to high-risk areas in commercial buildings that could reduce the risk of blockages and damage within private and public systems. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for giving us this opportunity. My name is Mary and Adam is here today as well. We focused our research on growth, service extension, and annexation. We are all most likely familiar with Peoria's Smart Growth Plan, which in regards to growth and service extension had a lot of really good things in it and showed how much Peoria has put in to ensure their growth is smart and sustainable. Peoria is primary residential. Most of their water goes into residential areas and landscaping. So those will be our two main categories for water use planning.
And when we started our research process, we utilized a couple selected cities that we thought might share similar problems and perhaps shed some light on what could be done in Peoria by examining the methods that they use to address them. Tucson is a desert city as well. It has seen rapid population growth over the last 25 years, going from around 600,000 to over 1 million people. But in that same amount of time, per capita usage of water has actually decreased from 121 to 89 gallons per capita per day.
Something I found really great about this particular city of Moab, Utah, is that they have interlocal agreements with nearby counties. So most of their growth is seen on the urban fringe, and the purpose of making an agreement with a neighboring county in regards to growth is the plan of it. Moab established an interlocal agreement with Grand County, so they have the ultimate control of their community as it grows.
After we approached our case studies, we identified a few themes that we thought might be pertinent to be utilized in developing solutions for Peoria. The theme number 1 was integration of annexation and service extension. And basically that refers to a policy that sort of links land use and water use by forcing any prospective developments to sign away their kind of agency over to the city government, wherein the city government can then decide when and where those parcels or projects will join the city and in what manner. And we believe that this will actually add some agency and power to the city of Peoria's government and planning departments.
So for our second theme, having these standardized guidelines for growth will be really helpful, and I do believe it to be a strong theme, especially for growing cities. There will always be political and jurisdictional constraints to expansion. Tucson has developed a water service area map that outlines guidelines for water services. So that also goes along with making agreements and plans beforehand, figuring out where water is provided, where it could be in any unknown areas. And this is where service extension really comes in, because they have to ensure that they can give these new areas service before anything else. Policies that favor development will mitigate sprawl.
And then our last theme identified from our case studies is the concept of demand side management. We want to use that as an disincentive strategy. We believe that ensuring adequate incoming supply is always important. However, lowering individual demand for water is also has a great share of the potential growth and mitigation of water usage. And we feel that this is something that could actually be utilized in the city of Peoria as well. So on reflection, we kind of pull our themes into just a couple different types of generalized thoughts. To ensure that growth is water smart, it will require a new type of collaboration. This collaboration can be introducing new facets of the government by creating co-management strategies, or even making it an adaptive co-management policy that also integrates certain levels of feedback from the community at large or from the different aspects of the government. We also believe in internalizing existing externalities to allow choice to people, but to also make sure that everyone is actually paying for the privilege of having that choice. So we took those reflections and formulated a few recommendations that we thought might be useful for the city of Peoria. The first one is a water for annexation agreement. We believe will give control to the city of Peoria, their government and their planning departments. As we referred to earlier, these agreements do empower these governments. They can kind of choose when, where, and at what cost development happens, as opposed to allowing developers to kind of decide for you.
The second recommendation, develop both internal and interlocal agreement to ensure standardized uniform growth, establish a water service area policy that is both consistent, revised, and updated, so it's clear where services can be extended to and where they can't. It should be through water, urban, and environmental planning with a good focus on the economy, society, and the environment.
And then the third recommendation that we identified was the implementation of block increase pricing. As we talked about before, by internalizing externalities, we want to push pricing burden to those who choose to be heavy users of water instead of those who are choosing to conserve water. We believe that this will allow Peoria to continue to offer affordable prices for water to those who are willing to do so in a reasonable manner. But for those who choose to be heavy users, they will pay the according price. And we believe that the combination of these three recommendations would start to create a foundation for which Peoria can better husband and better steward its water policy off into the future. And then these are some of our references, which are available later at anyone's discretion. And we just like to thank everyone for their time.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Hendon.
And I am Kenzie Myers.
And this is our Project Cities project on land conservation and open space policies. So here's a quick overview of the cities that we're going to be discussing in this presentation. First off, we got Boulder, Colorado, and their Greenbelt. We have Pima County, Arizona, and we have the Austin Bluffs in Colorado Springs. So the relationship between land conservation and open space policies and how they affect water conservation, to me, initially was not very apparent. But after some research on this, I actually found that open space policy has a great effect on water conservation efforts. So it's kind of intuitive. Development on open space increases water consumption, and not developing will help conserve more water. Open space may be open, but other cities and countries have found ways of developing around it. For example, Boulder, Colorado has worked to develop a greenbelt to preserve land instead of building on it. Pima County has created natural parks and out of open space to give back to the people of their community. And Colorado Springs also opened their own greenbelt and worked with the community to do so. And we're going to discuss how Peoria can learn from these three different cities to implement open space policies. So first off, we have Boulder, Colorado. In 1967, Boulder, Colorado was actually the first city in the United States to vote on a locally funded greenbelt. From just a 1 cent increase to sales tax, over a 31 years, they were able to create a budget of $160 million and conserve 33,000 acres of land. The reason they did this is because Boulder, Colorado, their city was being threatened by a great influx in population. Because of the popularity of the University of Colorado, many people were trying to move to Boulder, and this was threatening the culture that they have cultivated over many years. By establishing this greenbelt, it forced the city to limit their growth and maintain the culture that they wanted. And because of the 1 cent increase in sales tax, they were actually able to restore the forgotten buildings that they had and create a very vibrant tourism economy and maintain the identity of the city. So the theme of this study is the benefits that cities can have from actually not developing on their land. This is relevant to Peoria because just like Boulder, Colorado, Peoria also has a natural beauty that attracts both residents and tourism. One such of these is Lake Pleasant. It's a very popular destination, especially for locals to go out, visit, spend the weekend out there. And the reason that's so popular, especially among people from Phoenix, is because of the natural beauty that's around it and because it is undeveloped.
Following that, we're going to be talking about Pima County, Arizona. This is focused mainly on Tucson, but it does cover the wide variety of Pima County and the multiple different cities that fall under it. They created an open space preservation program identified as the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. It was created in 1988, but it is still continuing on to this day. They was created and advocated for by the coalition, who worked with the community and raised $174 million in bond funds. These bond funds were earned the title Habitat Protection Priorities and were put back into the community and into the land given to continue on preserving the Sonoran Desert. This open land created a space for the community to be able to go and enjoy the outdoors without having to be fully surrounded by developed land and get to experience the undeveloped land. Pima County also has a plan with private development for private developments. They are encouraging current developers to develop with consideration for the open space and to preserve the open space within that land. With the already developed buildings, they are encouraging an add-on to what they can modify to give more open space if they have the availability to do so. Following that is Austin Bluffs in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And the Bluffs are an open space made up of 584 acres in the center of Colorado Springs. It was a master plan adopted formally on June 11th, 2020, and was introduced April of 2019. Austin Bluffs consists of interconnected parks and open spaces in Colorado Springs. This park contains many rogue trails created by hikers instead of set designated trails. And within these trails, there are rules to preserve the land, such as non-motorized vehicle use and making sure you clean up after yourself. Peoria could replicate the preservation of Colorado Springs by using the open land they do have and preserving it to create more natural parks, giving hiking spaces, giving biking trails, things that a lot of native Arizonans do choose to enjoy, which is hiking, being outdoors, and this land is already interconnected within each other and can give more of a space to future generations. And it'll also make the open space last longer, and as stated with Boulder, there could be an increase in tourism as well.
So a quick reflection on what we've discussed today. The impact that land conservation can have on Peoria's water conservation efforts is very substantial. In order to create any sort of development, whether that's residential, businesses, anything like that, it takes a considerable amount of water versus leaving the land undeveloped. That will only help your water conservation efforts, especially considering that live in Phoenix, a desert. Water conservation is of the utmost importance. And if Peoria establishes a strategic land conservation policy, they can drastically improve their fight for water conservation and also maintain the natural beauty both residents and tourists enjoy.
A few recommendations that we have for Peoria is we recommend preserving the land that they have while they have it and haven't developed on it. Preserving the land that is there would cause there to be a lack of increase in water consumption compared to what it would take to put in developments. The water consumption is at a much higher level. Working with the developed land, if you were to choose to continue developing instead of not developing, instead of doing that, you could reuse the current developments. Personally, where I live, there is many open spaces that are just open buildings waiting to be used. There could be renovations and changes to those open buildings to be modified and allowing new businesses that are able to work with that space. This will also decrease the need to develop and increase the ability to use this open space. The land undeveloped as it stands has a lot of low maintenance and low water usage plants, and that would aid in decreasing the water consumption or keeping it as where it is right now. If you were to choose to follow this recommendation, it could lead to water levels staying the same or decreasing in the long run. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenna Bryant.
And Diamond Helicobert-Tran.
In the Sonoran Desert, where ecosystems are arid and water is a limited resource, landscaping and irrigation can easily put a strain on city water supplies without the right policies, programs, and education in place. After researching best practices for landscaping and irrigation, and also looking into 4 other model cities that have had effective policy and programs, we came up with some recommendations for the city of Peoria and how they can work towards more sustainable outdoor water use citywide. Peoria does a great job at providing tips for and recommending low water use plants and xeriscape landscaping. They also have rebate programs that incentivize homeowners and businesses for having or converting to xeriscape landscaping and for installing smart irrigation controllers. However, there is a lot of required landscaping for both public and private areas that we found in section 21.818 of the city code. These requirements include minimum densities of plants, minimum sizes of plants, and just all around required landscaping. We noticed that there was a lack of requirements for low water use plants or regulations against the water intensive landscaping. The only requirement that we could find in the city code had to do with requirements for public right-of-way areas, but not in any other areas. We recommend that Peoria limits the total percentage of water-intensive landscaping in residential and non-residential areas. An example of cities that already have these policies is Tucson and Gilbert. They have policies that allow a maximum of 5 to 10% of water-intensive landscaping in residential and non-residential areas, with some exceptions like parks, schools, golf courses, cemeteries, and more. We also recommend that Peoria expands the requirement of using plants from the Phoenix Active Management Area Low Water Using Plant List to all areas within Peoria's jurisdiction instead of just right-of-way areas like is listed in their code. And then we also would suggest that Peoria allows exceptions for areas using reclaimed water, however, still has limits for those areas. An example is Gilbert, which allows water-intensive landscaping in up to 30% of the total landscapable area when using reclaimed water.
Peoria currently also has a limitation on use of turf for development projects. And that limitation is that turf can be in up to 20% of the lot area. However, we recommend that the regulation is lowered to 10% of total landscapable area. Peoria currently has a non-residential water budget program that is designed to encourage homeowners associations and large commercial landscape sites to save water while maintaining thriving landscape areas. In this program, the City of Peoria and Waterfluence work together to provide a landscape water budget report to help reveal ways to reduce water, save money, and optimize sustainable water practices. We originally were going to recommend that the City of Peoria creates a free customized water budget based off of our research and the great success of Gilbert's program. It wasn't until a few days ago that we discovered the existence of the non-residential landscape water budget program after a PDF was sent to us by our Project Cities program manager. We're currently still unable to find any public information about this program other than the information that was sent to us, so it does not seem available to the public. But again, Gilbert's landscape water budget program is a big success that we could find in our research that saves hundreds of millions of gallons of water per year and hundreds of thousands of dollars of excess water costs per year. In order for Peoria's non-residential landscape water budget program to effectively optimize sustainable watering practices, as well as save money, information about it needs to be publicly available and accessible. Information about it should also be directly shared with HOAs, schools, businesses, hotels, and other large private developments in the city. We also think that Peoria could provide incentives and awards for participants that are using their non-residential landscape water budget program for participants that do reach their sustainable water use target. We also recommend that it is extended to residential areas as well.
So the Peoria has a very interactive low water plant site that names a bunch of plants that people can use in their landscape that have low water usage. But there's nothing about whether the homeowners will be fined or warned if their lawns are not kept alive or when there's a drought. But in Westminster, Colorado, there is a section that excludes homeowners from HOA enforcement on their lawns if upkeep of their lawn goes against drought restrictions. What we recommend is that Peoria provides an educational program for residents with lawns to learn about their land, their rights as homeowners, and their HOA. Educate the HOA about what they're allowed to enforce and what they can do to also promote water conservation. We also recommend that they have a plan for homeowners on what they can do during a drought on their landscapes. We also recommend that there is a policy where homeowners are not fined for their upkeep of their lawns if there is a drought occurring. We also recommend that they publicize classes for building resilient landscapes with their HOA's regulations.
Okay, hello, my name is Megan Donahue.
And I'm Layla Mushtak.
And we focused on water conservation policy strategies for Peoria.
Okay, so when looking at the city of Peoria, it honestly already does have a pretty comprehensive water management plan, but when comparing it and contrasting it to other cities in Arizona, specifically Gilbert, we saw that there are some shortcomings in Peoria's water plans that could be improved by drawing some inspiration from these other cities, mainly Gilbert. So the first aspect of Peoria's management plan that could be improved is their drought plan. So both Peoria and Gilbert have 4-stage drought plans in order of least to most severe in terms of water shortage. But looking at Gilbert specifically, Gilbert's drought plan is incredibly extensive And all protocol of this drought plan is all public information. Each stage, when entering another stage of the drought plan, the indicators for that are all very specific. There's specific measurements, and each protocol for each stage of the drought plan is all laid out, it's all detailed, and once again, all publicly accessible. The themes that can be drawn from Gilbert's very comprehensive drought plan is that they have a very proactive and aggressive approach to conserving water. And this drought plan, very public, incredibly specific, and incredibly comprehensive, and it does not leave anything out, which goes into the third point, which is all information is provided and nothing is censored with the drought plan, and nothing is hard to access.
Town of Gilbert also has a great residential water efficiency program, which basically provides better, more comprehensive water conservation education for residents. Also gives a variety of free water audit options, and residents are able to talk to a water conservation specialist. This program launched in 2011, and it is pretty successful. It's still going today. You know, in 2019, the program provided 506 water audit appointments and saved about 2.5 million gallons of water. They have lots of steps, links, instructions that are found online on their website. So it really provides information for the residents to be found easier. These themes could really translate to Peoria's water education through accessibility and adaptability. Public participation is incredibly important, and this coincides with higher customability for the residents. You know, citizens of Gilbert had multiple options of water efficiency checkups. They could just do a virtual appointment, an in-person appointment, you know, instructional videos that were found on their website for more personal water checkups, which really creates a more efficient and cost-effective program for the city, especially when it's getting started.
Okay, so now that we've looked at these case studies, we have some recommendations drawn from them. Going back to the drought plan. So Peoria's current publicly available drought plan is pretty vague, and it doesn't really include any specific strategies that will mitigate drought or water shortages. One thing that I noticed in Peoria's drought plan was that there weren't really any specific strategies for each stage. Kind of just said that they would identify the strategies as the drought progresses. And a recommendation for that is to have set protocol for each stage of severity, because one, just having a set plan that was easy to follow, it will just improve overall water conservation efforts. And two, having this information available to the public will most likely increase awareness and allow the citizens of Peoria to be proactive and engage in these strategies on their own free will. So further publicizing this and having a set protocol will not only increase awareness, but help the citizens further engage and conserve water when drought and water shortages do occur.
A recommendation we had to create a more functional residential home owner water efficiency audit program is to really start with online educational tools, so residents can go and get learn about detecting leaks and constructing personal water conservation strategies, so they can set more long-term water savings and routines. Also, it's incredibly important to be imageable. The website graphics, photos, step-by-step instructional videos are going to be the main focus at the beginning of the program. And that is the end of our recommendations. We think it's incredibly important for Peoria to keep striving to engage residents and prioritizing just reductions in water consumption whenever possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hi, I'm Paulina Johnson.
My name's Tito Sakala.
I'm Noemi Garcia.
And these are recommendations for Peoria's water plan. All right, this is what we'll be covering during the presentation. So our group was primarily focused on the city plans of Peoria and comparing those city plans with those of other cities in the West to see if there were any aspects of those plans that could be well applied to Peoria and their water policies. These are the cities that we looked at to see if they could in any way assist with Peoria's water plans. The first city we looked at was Tucson, Arizona. We chose to compare the city with Peoria because they have similar growth rates and population and face similar sustainability challenge as a result of the arid climate. Tucson's water plans are based on a set of 10 goals and recommendations they plan to meet and implement from the year 2000 to 2050. The goals include fully utilizing Colorado River water, fully utilizing reclaimed water, and expanding regional cooperation. Tucson has appropriated about 150,000 acre feet of water from the Colorado River annually, so the city has to be prepared to conserve and seek out other water resources to supplement the prior appropriation. We felt that Tucson's use of reclaimed water, as well as their regional cooperation with nearby cities and towns, could serve in Peoria's mission in water planning. The next city we chose to analyze was Gilbert, Arizona. It is similar to Tucson and Peoria in climate. However, Gilbert seemed more invested in conservation and resiliency, similar to Peoria. Gilbert has built 2 surface water treatment plants, 2 wastewater treatment plants, several wells, and groundwater recharge facilities in order to meet their water resiliency goals. The city's current planting area spans an estimated 45,000 acre feet between the Salt River Project and the Roosevelt River Water Conservation District. In order to ensure that these resources are used appropriately, Gilbert has implemented measures such as water audit and fixture retrofit program, ordinance for model homes and new residential developments, and public information and education. One aspect of Gilbert's water plan is an emphasis on environmental justice, something that may serve the residents of Peoria well. The final city we looked at was Boulder, Colorado. It was a little bit different from previous cities in that development is limited, but water supply is abundant. Pictured here are the Denver and Silver Lake water reservoirs that Boulder depends on for municipal water. Both cities place a similar emphasis on stakeholder engagement and their water use with both private organizations and private citizens. Boulder uses several different methods in order to manage and regulate water resources, including a water quality monitoring program, an efficiency plan, and water source impact assessment. We compared Boulder and Peoria because we thought it was important to sample from cities in the West that weren't necessarily in Arizona. What we learned from this was Peoria may benefit from similar levels of water quality management, as this is something more heavily emphasized by the Boulder City Plan.
Hello, I'm going to be talking about the analysis and themes that we discovered while researching. All right, so the first theme that we discovered was water stress. All the cities have gone through their own plans on how to deal with water stress. Tucson's strategy involves Colorado River and groundwater, which they've been implementing into their own plans since 2001. It's noted that the citizens are very conscious about water conservation as their water usage rates have been dropping since the 1970s. And they also don't take much stock into extraneous water uses like green lawns and things of the such. Gilbert's long-term deals with Colorado, Salt, and Verde rivers, and as well as priority laws, have allowed Gilbert to not feel the immediate effects of water shortages should they happen. And Boulder has a large pool of water resources to ensure that they won't have to worry about water stress or shortages for a long time. The second theme was water plans. All the cities have long-term water plans in dealing with potential disasters in features like floods and droughts. Tucson has a 2050 plan that aims to bridge the gap between Tucson water and the community so that they are better fitted to approach water supply challenges in the future. Gilbert has implemented reasonable conservation measures, or RCMs, 8 rules of water quality, and various deals with other water resources. And finally, Boulder has long-term plans, including involving stormwater implementation into their systems to better manage and protect communities, properties, and ecosystems.
All right, so Peoria's land and water use planning is going to have impacts both in and out of the city. One impact may be that neighboring cities and states may take inspiration from Peoria's water planning, creating a ripple effect of water conservation policy. The city of Peoria itself will also become much more resilient to future water stress if it begins to plan and act now, making the city and its residents much stronger. The effort to be efficient with Arizona's water sources is extremely important today, as it will present less stress on our already stressed water resources. Lake Mead and the Colorado River continue to get lower, therefore efficient conservation policies will prove to be an important solution.
We will now be giving our recommendations to the city of Peoria. The first recommendation we are giving is implementing the utilization of reclaimed water for non-potable use. This would mean working with other cities in the same county or region that can benefit from this program. This also means initiating a program that serves its purpose and advocating for it to be created and implemented. The second recommendation we give is using additional programs such as water audit and fixture retrofit program, ordinance for model homes and new residential developments, and public information and education. This means that the city would be creating opportunities for citizens to watch over their water and know what to expect, as well as informing them on how to be better and impact their future in a good way. The third recommendation we give is to consider environmental justice in the city's mission, since most residents are Hispanic. Hispanic residents in Arizona are more likely to face water scarcity. So doing this would not only be impactful for social justice for this minority group, but as well as the environmental aspect. The fourth and final recommendation we give is to place more emphasis on water quality learning from the city of Boulder, as most of the emphasis now is placed on water management. This is a goal that the city of Peoria can focus on down the road, as right now that is not the main priority. However, that does not mean that the water management is not important.
All right, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Wow, well, congratulations, students. You covered a lot of territory with water this semester. Yeah, it's a very complex topic, to say the least. And so I can see you probably learned a lot from each other based on the different sections of water policy that you worked with. And it's definitely a testament to a real world issue that faces every single resident in every single community, I think. So good job as well. And Candice, so it's good to see you. Would you like to mention a few words about your class?
Yes, so I agree. I think they were tackling a big topic, and I think they've done some great work here, taking what they started with zero knowledge of this issue and it really demonstrated their ability to not only research and analyze the issue, but then present solutions or potential recommendations. So kudos to all the groups, excellent work. And sorry, I was 5 minutes late. I was coming from the MSUS final presentations as well, which were right before this. Our master's students were finishing up, and that's my other class. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with Peoria and also the Babbitt Center to put together not only the way that we approach the project, but then to categorize the areas, the solutions in different topical areas or sort of categories. That would have been a real challenge, since I am not an expert on water policy, and that was a really helpful start to have, so that the students had a smaller area to grapple with, and even that there's a lot there for each of the teams. I think the one on plans probably had the largest or most amorphous thing to tackle there, because there's so many different types of plans. It could be a general plan or a sustainability plan or a drought plan, and different groups were touching on various other aspects of those as well. So they had some overlap between them. But that was great to be able to work with the Babbitt Center on that. So thanks to Julia for that connection.